I've gone on record a few times, and people have taken me to task on it when I've said that being a CEO is a highly confrontational role. But they think that confrontational means then grabbing people by the lapels and slamming them against the wall and yelling at them, all this kind of stuff. That's not what I mean by confrontation. Confrontation is about confronting issues and situations. When you see something where you go like, you know what, this is either not good, it is not good enough, or it can be better, right? And then you start talking to the team and the people responsible and say, hey, and you start bringing them along in your thinking. This is why I'm saying this. What do you think, right? You're trying to get them to the same place where you are because they're not seeing it, but you are, right? And getting into the details happens as a side effect of having this conversation. Why couldn't it be this way? Why couldn't it be, and it's just you're driving them to a higher level of aspiration on whatever topic is going on. It can be the simplest, stupid things, right? And I often start this conversation. How do you think that things are going? I'm not telling them you suck or things are terrible. No, how do you think things are going? Let them talk, right? And then you can say, well, what about this? What about that, right? And all of a sudden, the perspective has opened up and changed. So the challenge is bring them along into thinking, because then it's not confrontational. They don't experience it as confrontation. They experience it as engagement, right? And obviously there's finesse and subtlety, but it's also, you're dealing with people, right? You don't want to destroy them because you want to build them, not bring them down, right? So I spent all the time, because one of the things that you do as a CEO when you talk to your direct reports is, hey, how's the team doing? How's so and so doing? I mean, we're okay right now. Are we going to be okay a year from now? Why do we think a year from now we're going to be twice as large? Why do we think we'll still be okay? Because here are some of the concerns that I have, that I'm seeing. And I also talk to them about they need to grow in their roles, because people have a tendency to go sideways. They rinse and repeat. They keep doing the same things. You can't in a high growth company. You need to become a different version of yourself. And I'm trying to help them think through that. What does that look like? What does your organization look like a year from now versus what it looks like today, right? What is the evolution? So in other words, stimulate their thinking, challenge them, to think about, hey, next week, let's talk about, what this would look like, what we would do differently, staffing wise, roles wise, and so on. So is that confrontation? Yes, it is, but it's dressed up in a way that it engages, people in a process. And by the way, that's all the time, every single week. It's a very dynamic thing.